to the study. It's a very blustery day outside. You can hear the wind and the rain. The rain is splatting against the window pane. It's a nice day to sit here, cozy, amongst our books. I thought I would show you some French language learning books of different kinds. There are 4 of them here. It's a bit of French language literature and history. Nice and relaxed as the storm blows outside. I think we need a nice warm cup of something, so I've decided to make some hot chocolate with these pure dark chocolate pearls. They're very, very chocolatey. You can see like little pebbles of dark chocolate. I love dark chocolate. You can see the pebbles rolling around, and there's the cocoa that I've made. Makes a very rich, chocolatey drink when you heat milk until it froths and pour it over the chocolatey pebbles. It would be best if I had topped it up possibly with some whipped cream and marshmallows, but I didn't have them today, so I just made them in this cup, little china cup, for that's the storm, so we can sit here with our hot chocolate and a cozy fleece and look at books together as we stay warm and dry. The first book I would like to show you is is a nice little small hardcover book. You can see a drawing or an illustration from one of these stories inside it. There's some men in a balloon and some giant birds that are trying to destroy the balloon and knock them out of the sky. Nouveau conte et récit. So you can see this book has some spots on it and some sun bleaching, so it has been used quite a lot. Nouveau conte et récit, and the famous publisher Arab. Looks like it used to be a library book, which is par for the course because I'm always looking around libraries, picking up what they want to throw away and go. This one has some interesting marks in it. It's from Demuck's Book Arcade, George Street, Sydney. That shop, when I was last there, was still there, the Dimmicks in the arcade in near Pitt Street Mall in Sydney. Lovely little place to shop. Looks like this book was the property at one point of the adult education section in the Public Library of New South Wales. And it has been cancelled. And publications 1941 and 61. So many editions of this. Looks like it helps people learn French, because in the back there's vocabulary, which is very helpful, and subjects for free composition, exercises, notes. So this is how we used to learn languages. So for example, reading one of the stories here, Le Roi des Brigands, the king of the brigands, or what would we say, the robbers, bandits. And here we have in English a little summary. For months, reports of activity by bandits had kept the German botanist Hermann cooped up in Athens. At last he learned that he could safely venture into the mountains, as the bandit king of the mountains, Stavros, was far away. This rumor, however, had been spread by the king himself to lure out victims. So some adventure stories we have. Oh, some fencing as well. I used to fence the duel. Look at that. What a wonderful way to learn a language. Adventure in a balloon. Some very nice illustrations as well. And then you would go in the back to see or double check your vocabulary. And they also have the article, so you can tell if the word is masculine or feminine. And we have exercises. So for example, from pages 145 to 148, the teacher might say, read those pages and do exercise number 36. Right. Oh, the cemetery of the Chateau d'If. Sounds like Dumas. And the adventure of Walter Schnaps. And here we have a soldier who's waiting. And as you read the story, he's trying to stay. He's a Prussian soldier, Walter. Also, the notes we have a few notes on the expressions. So what do we have for our Prussian soldier? There's the king of the brigands again, the robber king. And our Prussian soldiers, the penultimate story there. By Guy de Maupassant. I love that author, who had immense success as a writer of short stories, a few of the best known of which are La Peur, Fear, Le Loup, The Wolf, and Mon Oncle Jules, My Uncle Jules. And here we have L'Armée d'Invasion, Invasion Army, the story tells of an episode in the Franco-Prussian War. Normandy was a northwestern province of old France, now subdivided into 5 départements. So as we have read that story, we go to the exercises in retranslation in the back. The references in parentheses are to page and line of the text. In these translation exercises, English words in parentheses are not to be translated into French. English words in brackets should be inserted in translating into French. So we have our Prussian soldier. The episode we read from 145 to 148 is largely about this. So we would read that and translate that into French after having read the story itself. Exercise 36 says, being a peaceful man, he did not at all want to fight a duel. Besides, could he manipulate a sword rapidly enough to defend his own body? And yet, if he refused to fight, what would become of him? His friends would never speak to him again. As he came near the field where the duel was to take place, he felt a shuddering sensation in his skin. For months he had been living in fear of this event, and now there came to him a mad desire to run away. He gave a terrific jump on hearing something move in the grass at his feet. It was only a rabbit that was doubtless as frightened of him as he was of his adversary. So you can read these stories and the notes to the exercises, and the vocabulary is there for you. So, if you want to learn a language, that's a wonderful way to do it, by reading the literature of that country, understanding the culture, the history, and the way people think, all in one go. The second one that I'm going to show you is one I picked up. It's even filthier. It's been around quite a lot. And it's quite old for a school book. It's the basic French reader, Arrêt l'évêque. Looks like it used to belong to someone called Ricardo Iglesias. I have no idea where I picked this up over the years. Could be anywhere. Unfortunately, this sticker's come up and stuck over Brittany and pulled up some of the shoreline. But we have a nice little map of France here. And Ricardo has stuck his library sticker right over our map, unfortunately. This one is from the University of Wisconsin and published by Henry Holt and Company of New York. December 1957. Published 1956, Library of Congress 57. So it's really a post-war France we're looking at, and quite basic. And here we see that possibly Ricardo has written down here what he wants to read and when. He's planned out his lessons. So, arrival in Paris, at the house of Madame Lange, an old friend, about the Grand Boulevard, the great boulevard streets, in the metro, a meeting, an invitation, and then we have an introduction in English. What it's recommended that you do while you're learning French, and how to use this book. And here that someone's studied quite meticulously, marking in notes. So this one is more of a beginner text, or beginner for the way languages used to be taught. Voici une famille américaine, le père, la mère et leurs deux enfants. So an American family, the mother, the father, and the two children. So very simple sentences, but it gets you reading right away. There's photographs. I think that's what I liked about this book, really, is not only the format, but the photographs of post-war Paris. Aren't they gorgeous? The Champs-Élysées, old cars, cafes. Cathedral. It's going around France. Seeing all kinds of... Parc Monceau in Paris. One of my favorite songs by Yves today is Parc Monceau. Lovely chanson. And along the river Seine there's Notre Dame Cathedral. So also have a glossary in the back, the vocabulary dictionary. List of illustrations. And looks like some little questions. So this would be something to do in class. Better, I think, in class. So you would practice your speaking. And then you would answer. Il arrive, blah blah blah. So you'd probably have groups of students working on that, or the teacher asking the students. It's a little practice of how to have a conversation dans le métro. Parisian traffic, car industry, old Paris, politics, plaisir et distraction. La cuisine, all kinds of interesting things about Parisian life. So that's probably why I picked this book up at a used bookshop or library. Although I don't see any library marks on it, and obviously it belonged to Ricardo. So are you starting to feel relaxed and warm? That's good. Let's look at some more. I've got two more. This one was actually mine when I was in high school. Graded French Reader, 4th edition. And you can see there's some stories in here, as well as questions, comprehension questions, writing exercises. And there you can see my notes. I'm taking notes there. What stories have we got? Juliette de l'Évêque, so that's Victor Hugo from Les Miserables. I remember reading that one. It's got excerpts here. What else did we have? That one's a famous story too. Aucassin Nicolette. That one is medieval tale, and it's originally in Old French. Here it's been put into modern French for the student, and it's wonderful to get this lovely story in readable French for someone who's learning the language. So there's also the dictionary, mini dictionary in the back. More reading comprehension and writing exercises. Beauty and the Beast there. Look, some different stories as well. Puss in Boots. And play. So there you go. High school French. Exercise book. A nice little picture of a tapestry on the front. Typical Flemish with all of the flowers, plants and birds surrounding the people, and someone whittling a staff there with a knife. A lady and what appears to be a nightingale. A lady with a harp and a man with a flute. They're all very lavishly dressed, with robes that are embroidered with gold thread, surcoats, shoes and stockings, and caps as well. So, you really get a cross-section of French culture there. And you can hear the storm outside, more heavy wind blowing the rain against the window. But don't worry, we're warm and safe in the study. Nothing can happen to us here. No one will bother us. It's just you and me and the books, and of course our delicious chocolatey drink. The this is the last book I'd like to show you. This is from a French school, so not learning language but history for the 5th class or 5th grade or year 5. Histoire, classe de 5e, and again Hachette Library. And what are we learning in year 5? Le Moyen Âge, the Middle Ages, by Professor A. Alba, Lycée Henri IV, 1938. Precarious year. Inside is a map, very fragile paper, typical of early and mid-20th century books. Much of the paper also contained acid, so it has to be preserved very carefully. And here we have the Episcopal State. Of what would have been Paris or France in around the year 1000. So France was not really a unified country as it is today. And here we have the Archdiocese of Mayence. Other bishoprics here. The Archbishopric of Cologne. So there's the Rhine. There's Strasbourg. So you can see it. These spill over into the Holy Roman Empire, what would become the Holy Roman Empire. What was becoming the Holy Roman Empire. And here is the Danube. Regensburg, Augsburg, Salzburg, all of the medieval capitals of learning. Also, because they had cathedrals, they contained books, libraries, and were patrons of learning, the arts, culture, industry and science. The Low Countries there. And Trèves or Trier, where Charlemagne was crowned king in 800. And then 4 more maps. Gallo-Romantic period. So the limes, or the wall, separating the Roman Empire from the Germans. Then we have a small one around Mainz or Mayence. Mainz had some very prominent workshops that made books, manuscripts as we know them now. Lake Constance. This is after the Reform, probably the Carolingian Reform. The Concordat of Worms. And 1815. This one might be possibly the Concordat after the 30 Years' War, which would have been 1648. And there we would use this map when referred to in our history. conquest of France by Clovis. More maps. So we've got the Visigothic kingdom, Ostrogoths, Empire d'Orient would be Byzantine Empire, so the Eastern Empire, Vandals, Franks, and the Burgundians. This is the period that is known in German history as the Völkerwanderungen, or just after it. The Völkerwanderungen, when all of the tribes had been pushed from the east, the Roman Empire was falling, could no longer defend against these pushes from the east like dominoes, and the Visigoths came. Ostrogoths, some very famous kings as well, like Attila from the east, and Dietrich von Bern, Theodoric. Establishment of the Germans in France, a basilica, Saint-Apollinaire-Neuve, and we have soldier costumes. Cathedral of St. Sophia, Hagia Sophia in Constantinople. So it looks like the fall of Constantinople, the Lombard kingdom. So Italy being part of what was the early Roman Empire of the German nation. The coming of Muhammad and the Arab Empire. Great influence on the Middle Ages. Charlemagne, the restorer of order and education. He was very adamant, being illiterate himself, that his subjects all learned how to read and write. So under Charlemagne there was a great revival of book copying, literature and languages. And then the dissolution of Charlemagne's Frankish Empire, divided between his three sons, Ludwig or Louis, Lothar, Lothair, and Charles' son. And it was after this that the eastern section became the Holy Roman Empire, and different duchies subdivided Charles' section. So under Frankish law, the sons each got 1/3. And one of our very first documented multilingual charters in Europe, the Strasbourg Oaths, taken by the three sons. And there we have the Holy Roman Empire taking shape. The first Emperor Otto, well, the wind is very, very strong. You can hear it blowing against the windows now. But don't worry, we are very safe here in the study. This building has been standing for at least 5 centuries. It's not going anywhere. There's Carcassonne, a stronghold in the south of France for the Cathars. And now we're about the French people, the paysans, on the countryside from the someone has put a flower in here. It's a paper flower. Looks like they've cut it out of a card or some lovely bygone memory and stuck it in here. Development of the Third Estate. I don't know what significance that would be. It was significant to someone. We don't know who owned this book. It's possible I picked it up when I lived in Australia. Oh, here we are. These are the Crusades, I think. No, it's... the Battle of Bouvines. There. The ruins of the Chateau Gaillard. The plan. There's the keep, the donjon. Fossé, ditch. Philippe Auguste. Louis. It's all of Saint Louis' works of generosity. Philippe le Bel. Templars, the Fair of the Templars. Now we still have Brittany on its own out there. Aquitaine and Gascony subdivided. After, of course, Eleanor of Aquitaine divorced her French king husband and married Henry II of England. So parts of Aquitaine and even Gascony went to England. They were never part of France since Charlemagne, and even then it was a duchy that just owed him allegiance rather than being under him. The 13th century, formation of Parliament, Simon de Montfort. And there, the formation of the Grand Kingdom of France. So England only has a small part of Normandy, if anything, and a little bit of Gascony left. And we look at some royal charters as well. Coins. Medieval industry. There was a lot happening in the Middle Ages. Lots going on in the way of farming, agricultural sciences, building of machines and engines, not powered like they are today, but siege engines and architectural engineering, farming machines, navigation, of course. And look at that, they even know about the skeleton of a horse and how it fits together to put it into a drawing. It's more seafaring. From a 13th century manuscript, and what's going on in the kingdom as well. Literature and arts in the 12th and 13th centuries. A very big age for arts and literature. Now we've got cathedrals, the There's Reims. It's Paris. Oh, you can certainly hear the wind outside now. There's some things flying about. And there's, of course, what would be the Middle Age without the battles. There's Crécy. 100 Years' War by Froissart. Famous. And what happened as a result of the 100 Years' War to the map of France and Europe? There, someone's made some notes here, because we've got a review of what we read. There's Charles V and the Siege of Orléans, talking about the years during Joan of Arc. Jeanne d'Arc et la fin de la guerre de Cent Ans, so Joan of Arc and the end of the 100 Years' War. And finally, we begin to see a map that starts to look more like modern-day France. And there's Charles VII, Joan of Arc there. France under Charles VII, the new border of the Kingdom of France. And there's Franche-Comté. It's now part of modern-day France, as well as Alsace and Lorraine. So all along this border, there are places that in the Middle Ages spoke both Middle High German and Old French. And there we getting further. More maps. This is Spain and Germany. Yes, I know that's a map of Italy, but at the time it was the Holy Roman Empire of the German nation, including Bohemia, Austria, Hungary, Bavaria, and over 350 autonomous principalities that elected an emperor. There's Venice. That was always its own master. And we have some lovely photographs as well. So if you were in year 5 in France in the 1930s, this would have been your school book, your class book, from which you would have done your homework. I hope you feel nice and cozy and relaxed. I like looking through books with you. Let's stay warm and cozy in the study and listen to the storm raging outside. Be good to yourself. Be kind to others. Take care of your books. And be extraordinary.